Alright, aka Powders, on the eve of Super Bowl 57, we're going to go into a young creative mind and something I found deeply inspirational as I was growing up. Yes, this is a comic book channel, but we're going to be discussing the National Football League and a book that they collaborated and helped put out called NFL at 75. We'll be looking at the final chapter of that book to see some amazing concept design work and exactly how that translated into my future art style and art career. So before we hit that drawing table, this is the book in question. It's not the style of artwork we see on this cover. The final chapter of this book is the potential future and the future technology of the National Football League, accompanied by some pieces of artwork. And if you ever seen the movie Starship Troopers, the football scene in Starship Troopers pretty much is inspired by a couple paragraphs in this book. I'm going to introduce it to you. This was deeply inspirational for me. I used to stare at these pictures, just kind of like extrapolating the thought process that went into them. I still do to this day. I just finished rereading this chapter because I absolutely love it. These are the things that get my jollies off, if you know what I mean. Let's hit that drawing table. Alright people, so here it is. Oh, and by the way, if we're going to tease some of my upcoming live streams, I'll be working on the live Jack Kirby inks. This is what I've recently done this year. I will be live streaming this very soon to wrap up this amazing Icarus Darkseid Orion piece, penciled by the great Jack the King Kirby. His birthday was just a week ago. We still love you, Jack. So I just want to get this out of the way. The contents of this book is mostly the 75 seasons, 1920 to 1995 of the National Football League. I was in middle school when this came out, right? Right, potentially middle school. No, actually, it was high school when this came out. And I used to stare at this book in my local school library. I don't know how they got a copy. Usually school libraries, even back then, didn't get a lot of the new stuff. But this cover, and just the way how you can kind of see some of the blue undertones and blue highlights here of the players, even Emmitt Smith here, like the blue for his forehead. This resonated with me a lot, and I would endlessly try, and even to this day, try and duplicate similar effects. And I always talk about this, aka Padders. Get inspired by everything but comic books, alright? Now, yes, we do have a Crypt action figure on our desk at all times, but we want to get inspired by the world so that folds into our work. And if you don't think that's something Jack Kirby did, you're wrong. It's good to know about comic books, but to make the best comic books, you have to go beyond the books. And look, and even here, see around this S, look at this blue highlight around his hips and down his thigh. It's amazing. It really is. So here's the chapter. And there's also just fantastic artwork throughout. I mean, they have this these decade buffer pieces. I mean, look at this. Look at Dick Buckets right here. It's just amazing. And one of my favorites is going into the 90s. Look at all the 90s boys. If this does not inspire you, and I know there's been a lot of conversation. Look at Sharon Sharp right there. There's just been a lot of conversation on tracing 3D assets and all these other things. Yes, you can tell that these are photographs that are traced onto this board here or onto the piece. Look at Junior Seau, just looking like a monster. But you have to do it in a way to blend it to where it's seamless. Could this deserve a little bit more time to be more seamless? Yes, and that's always the push and pull. So a lot of times, we use Alex Ross or Norman Rockwell as those arguments. Those are two examples where it went seamless. When we use photographic reference here for my football trading cards, Laces Out, available tomorrow on AKAPAD.com, by the way. Hopefully you guys look at this, look at these likenesses that were photographic reference, but seamless. So let's get into this chapter here. Holograms in the living room. People, this illustration here of the Super Bowl stadium or football stadium on the moon in space, this echoes into today, into the Las Vegas stadium, into the new Dallas stadium, into the new Viking stadium. Football stadiums now have arrived to this level, and I absolutely love these like twin towers here with the giant Lombardi trophy in the middle. It is over the top, but this is again, like when it comes to, in like if you're going back to 95, 96, 97, your entry into the higher forms of illustration was not in comics. You had to search around other ways for it outside of just like paper, like trade paperback covers or novel covers. You had to dig around to find stuff like this. And like this is before the making of movies books became like prevalent. Every single movie that came out that was a big budget movie had a art of book or a making of book. This is before then. So to get a little bit of a glimpse of how we're using markers, what concept design work looks like, what constitutes as concept design work. This is also a hydraulic. These are hydraulic football pads that help absorb the shock, and even in here they talk about that being an absolute possibility. There's a lot of predictions in here, especially when it comes to the technology sense, that did ring true. But like I used to just stare at this living room here. And let me grab one of my paintbrushes here, because like it's just the subtle things that would stand out to me, like the lighter marker here with the darker marker on top of the graphite pencil. And I guess like during the time I thought this was like all original. This is clearly like a reproduction of a graphite drawing or like a pencil drawing that they either photocopied or facsimiled onto a stiffer artboard, because like we get the idea that some of this is pencil, but we get no smearing. And again too, this is where like the young mind cannot blend. It cannot like kind of like extrapolate exactly how things were put together, and you constantly, when you're learning, you have to reverse engineer. And this too, I love these like streaks here, these acrylic streaks of the player. And this is like, even here, like I was looking at this earlier, this is almost like a holographic football. It's just wild stuff. And I love that the guy potentially has like a space helmet and just hanging out in his living room there. And then we get this. So we get this VR section. And look at, like, this is just so cool. Just the way that they're showing you the holographic players while the like the trainee, we'll call him, is wearing a VR helmet. But I really like this yellow guy in the background here, and it just goes to show you the level of study, or like how exact the illustrator was, because to put red on top of blue and to kind of know what your result's going to be, and to use yellow here on top of green or lighter blue, this is all potential disaster if you're working on something when you cannot make any mistakes. And that's always the fascinating part of this era of concept design work, because a lot of times what you see is what you got, and we're not digital yet. So what these guys put on the paper, they knew what the results were going to be as they were doing it. There was really very little guesswork, and I love these quick shadowed dark lines here for the roof paneling or the ceiling paneling. And I guess like these are holographic projectors here. Really cool stuff. People, this is they make the point in this about being able to rehearse plays without getting injured, or memorizing plays and memorizing your placement and timing without getting injured. We're here today. This came to fruition, and here's our Starship Troopers moment. These uniforms and the way how they describe how these uniforms work to where how they're almost like vacuum sealed. This is what we saw Rico score his winning touchdown in his on his prom night. By always a weird point of that movie in Starship Troopers. The final football game is also on prom night, but Rico gets the scoring touchdown, gets the girl, goes to the prom, and loses her when she joins the Space Force. And this one is absolutely great, just on the subtlety of these yellow highlights here. Again, I was just staring at this today. I love the pod chair and how the pod chair jettisons almost like a floating armrest or a table rest. Now, on the opposing page, they make this observation that the technology of mobile satellites for the home is coming into... Look, a lot of what they talk about happened or already happened, but every single home is going to be able to have a satellite to draw in every single game, and that's just the way how they imagined it. Of course, we would get a bigger dish on the outside of our homes for like DirecTV, very close though. But this yellow streak here, I don't know why I love it. So we can tell that we're on what you would call like an artboard, because this is like a white colored pencil and you can just see the colored pencil or the white charcoal streaks here. Really cool stuff. And then one nice detail, I didn't pick this up until today. This dude watching this curved game, this total immersion, he's somewhere in like an airport or like a community space, because we got someone here walking with like what looks like to be a like a TV dinner or something. Really cool stuff. And then we would get this to where they're imagining the full experience at the stadiums, where they would get holographic replays targeting with sensors. They say this with sensors in the balls, the gloves, and the shoes. Sorry, they said balls and shoes, not gloves, but eventually gloves, right? To know if players were in or out of bounds, if they got a touchdown, if they didn't get a touchdown. And they kind of talk about how the previous generation will ridicule that, and you will always believe that the generation that came before had the best players and the best fairness within the rules. Really like smart stuff, but I just like the idea that we're kind of in this dome here too, and everyone has like a screen. And they talk about how like there's games within the games, and there's things that you could vote for and bet on. And see, you can see everyone here has a remote control. Great work, by the way, on nailing the crowd. Crowds during this time, and if you're using things like Doc Martens and Prismacolor markers, again, no Copic. Guys, very skillful here. And I always liked just the subtleness, because you can tell this is a hologram because it's slightly see-through, and that is done through practical art materials. Again, nothing digital. But this, it really like shook me up. We have one more. Oh, no, this is the final page here. But no, this really just, I would just stare at this, hoping I would get to the level on a rendering sense or in the practical art sense to know how to accept challenges. Meaning, if someone's like, hey, you have to do a mirrored holographic floor, can you do it? And the answer would be yes, and you would kind of know what beats you would have to hit. That's the craftsmanship side of everything. There's a practicality side, there's a client side, there's a craftsmanship side, and then there's like your ability as an artist that kind of comes into it all. But it kind of comes later. The artistry comes later. The craftsmanship comes first. And just even here talking, the color and the wash color of the background here to where like creates this focus, this like lighter teal here. It's just really, it's so smart, And I'm not sure if any of this is credited within this book. I still don't know who did some of these. Maybe we can we... No, photographs, special thanks to color separations. No, like, and we have all decade illustrators. Those are the chapter titles and other illustrators. Let's see, Chuck Wren 148. No, we're in the 300s. Bill Madrid 318. Okay, so the guy's name is Bill Madrid. We're going to look him up. That's awesome. I never thought about doing that until right now. Guys, we're learning together. But yeah, I just wanted to share this. I just wanted to share but the paths you have to go to fill your head up with as much as possible so that when you're at the drawing table, you can pull it in.